Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Cody Del Mendo, Ryan Herrera, Luke Stuckmeyer getting you ready for the trade deadline on Tuesday. And what the Effross, fellas. We didn't see this one coming. The first real big move. Martin, a nice trade. Effross, surprising. Chris Effross, the 28-year-old. Scott Effross, I'm sorry. Off to a great start.
Chris Martin on the mind.
Yes. Traded to the Yankees for a starting pitcher, Hayden Wesneski, one of the top pitching prospects, 1 or 2, depending on who you ask, in the Yankees farm system. He's already been assigned to Iowa. First of all, are you surprised, and what is your reaction to the move? I was caught off guard, but I'll tell you what I do think it means. Anything can happen now.
Yeah, I mean, I was caught off guard. I think that's a good way to put it. I was caught off guard because I wasn't ready for it. But I think we kind of came into this trade deadline as like kind of same as last season. Like anyone could get traded. No one was untouchable. Whether or not guys were being shopped by Jed's a different story. But like if someone came and inquired about a certain guy, there's every reason to believe that they could have been traded. And you see that today. Like Scott Effross wasn't mentioned in much of the rumors. He wasn't the name thrown around out there as far like on the reliever market. Mm-hmm. And then he gets traded. He's the second guy to get traded from the Cubs. Like it's these other guys that we're saying like, oh, they're big trade chips. They, the veterans on cheap deals, whatnot. Those guys are still Cubs, and Scott Effross isn't. So yeah, I think caught off guard is the right way to put it. It was surprising to see, and just in the sense that like I didn't expect it today. But yeah, I mean it's a trade that was going to happen maybe.
Yeah. Well, the news dropped. I just put the barbell back up on the thing, and I every time I do a set, I look at my phone because I'm like, it's deadline season, man. It's trade season. I'm trying to not miss any of the news because I knew we could be doing an emergency pod at any time, and I was gonna have if that was gonna be an Ian Happ or Willson Contreras trade, then I would have been biking home as fast as possible. Instead, I put that barbell back up on the rack, and I see the news, and I just yell "fuck" really loud, like straight up. That I definitely overreacted when I saw the tweet from Passan and Rosenthal, and to spin zone it, it's probably good that I had to ride my bike home and let it kind of settle in my soul, and then read a little bit about Hayden Wesneski, and I'm pretty happy about it. Like like you guys said, it was surprising. No one saw it coming. Is a rookie with 5 years of control. No one really moves those guys very often, right? But yeah, I mean, I love the move in terms of what the future for the Cubs means in my really weird way of thinking. So, yeah. And I think the main thing for me is that you'd think we should see him on the Cubs at some point in the second half of the year. I don't think I'd be shocked if we don't. So,
have you seen the GIF of George McCaskey on the scooter at Hallis Hall today, riding away real fast on a scooter?
No, I haven't.
Motorized scooter. That's probably Effross going to the Yankees. He's like, first place, I'm in.
There he goes, man.
Skating along. There's 2 ways to look at it. There's the negative and the positive. Dom Frederick has already addressed what I think a lot of people will say is you're supposed to be acquiring good players, and sooner or later, you can't just stop giving away your good players if you plan on competing next season. That's a problem. The positive side is this, and there are a lot of positives actually to this trade despite the fact that it is surprising. Number one, the Cubs are trading from a strength. We all know that the bullpen that's where they've got some guys that are movable, and this was one of the guys that some teams targeted, so maybe the Cubs didn't even go into it saying, we're trading Effross, but when you can get a player who, MLB Pipeline has him number 7 prospect in the Yankees organization. You're getting a top 10 guy from the Yankees organization. Some say he's the 6th ranked prospect in the Yankees organization. Almost everybody says he's 1 or 2 when it comes to pitching prospects. You're also taking a reliever that was a 15th rounder for you that you've developed into somebody, which is fantastic, but you've now flipped him for a guy that was a 6th rounder and is ready to also be a major leaguer very, very soon. He's already been assigned to Iowa, but when you look at what he's done this season, 17 of 19 starts, an ERA under 4, and the guy's strikeout to walk ratio is great. There are things to like about that. I was looking through his stuff, and the pitch doctor had a lot of great things to say. He compared his 20-inch break on the slider to Sonny Gray, saying it's 95th percentile. Okay, that'll work. You see the stats on YouTube, 5 July starts, 24 and 2/3 innings, 28 Ks, and a 2.19 ERA. Impressive. And all of that shows you that he might be a guy that it could come up already this season at the end of the year, or he might be a rotation guy for next year. So the reality is you're saying to yourself now, will I take a guy that's 4 years younger than Effross and is a starter and could be Caleb Killian or better for Scott Effross, a guy that would be maybe a 30-year reliever by the time the Cubs come around to competing? I got to tell you, and personally, it makes a lot of sense. I understand what Dom is saying about trying to compete next year, but this guy could be on the team next year.
Yeah.
In a multitude of roles. So you could move him a lot of different ways, but it looks like this guy is a major leaguer next year.
Yeah, and he slots in right as the Cubs' number 8 prospect right now. So it's not like he's just some top 30 guy that they hope. Like he was a good prospect in the Yankee system. Slots in well to a system, and a Cubs system that's improved a lot over the last year. And I think people forget that Scott Effross isn't like young. Maybe less experience is a better way to describe him. He's 28, So that, like you said, if it's a couple years, he might be a 30-year-old guy. Couple less years of team control. And the Cubs, this overhaul, this pitching infrastructure, pitch lab, all these different things. They clearly, truly believe in it. You saw that with how they, went about the draft, and you see that now. It's like Scott Effross has been a really good guy, really good reliever for him this year. He has been, but they see a guy who could potentially come up this year, who has worked with Daniel Moscas in the past, and who's a guy that, if anything, can possibly just cover some innings for the rest of the year when guys like Keegan and Justin Steele, kind of start hitting or getting closer to that innings limit that they might have on them. But the pitching infrastructure, all that kind of stuff, they clearly believe in it, and this is a move that shows you that they believe in it. Like, this is a move that shows you that they want to take this guy, get him down with their pitching coaches, get him down in the system, and see what they can do with him. See if there's something that he didn't unlock in his time at the Yankees that they could, and he could come up and be a good pitcher, whether that's in a starting role this year, or he comes up just as a reliever, a guy that can eat innings out of the bullpen. Scott Effross hurts to lose in the short term.
Yeah.
Because he was a really good reliever, and if you're also trading Givens, you already traded Martin, David Robertson's probably gone. Scott Effross was probably that next guy that was going to be like your back end guy, like a guy that was going to, maybe him, Rowick, were going to be either 8 and 9. Now you lose that too, so that's going to hurt the bullpen in the short term. But it's kind of I'm kind of interested to see what the Cubs can do with Wesneski. Is that how you say it? I still haven't figured out for sure.
Yeah, Ravi says, take us to Valhalla, Wesneski.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what kind of comes of it. I don't think it was like I don't think it's like this team won the trade, this team lose the trade. It's like you kind of got a time to see what kind of comes out of this. Honestly.
Right. Again, I think the best thing about this trade is that this guy can pitch now. Honestly,
as a starter,
right? Like you showed the stat, or Kevin showed the stats in July. Like he's been good. I don't think that this necessarily has much to do with Steele, Thompson, Killian, Stroman, whatever. Like that's kind of like what the chat's talking about. I think you throw him in there as a starter right away whenever you do call him up and see what happens. And you hope that he can stay a starter, right? But I don't know. To me, it's you're getting really good value for a reliever that, like you guys said, has been really good as a Cub this year. I think that we all needed to see the Cubs continue to get more starting pitching that can pitch now. And as the rumors have said that we've seen over the course of this year, a lot of rumors out there saying that the Cubs are going to spend in the offseason. Personally, I think they should be spending more on position players. I still think that they should go definitely get an arm or two in free agency, but adding this guy with the potential that he has, it kind of takes some weight off on really focusing on the pitching in free agency than position players. So again, I know I'm jumping ahead. A lot of people still don't think they should be competing in 2023, but like you said at the beginning of the show, Luke, we needed to see the Cubs make a move that shows that, like, you're not just selling off players for lottery tickets. This guy, again, can pitch. He can pitch in the next week or two if the Cubs want to. I'm not against them sending him, to Arizona to work with the guys, like with the pitch lab, whatever. If there's anything they want him to work on, I'm not against that. Or if they want to see him make some starts in Iowa first, I'm not against it either. But we could see him pitch in September like the rest of the other guys that we could see come in September. So to me, that's exciting, and that's something that I can hold my head up thinking, okay, like maybe, like, so many people think that this team won't be competing for another 2 years. And yeah, I understand why people think that, but this is a move that shows, like, hey, like, this is a guy that, there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, it's a reliever for a starter. That's still a great move. And Sean says, makes another great point. Who's going to say Effross stays healthy? Well, that's any pitcher. But also, he says, relievers are fickle creatures. I say bullpens are one of the toughest things to do. But, Cody, you've been saying it since we started this network. Like, that's one thing the Cubs have shown they can do. They can find a 15th rounder in Effross and turn him into somebody that the Yankees are willing to give up a top 7 prospect for.
Absolutely.
So, and then there's the connection with the Cubs assistant pitching coach. Daniel Mascas goes back with this guy, Wesneski, and has known him, talked about him, worked with him during 2020 remotely. When he was at AA, he was one of his coaches. And this was just this last year that the Yankees said, I believe it was Mascas, prior to him leaving, it said, work on this, it can increase your fastball. And that's worked too. So, like, you've seen him progress through the minor leagues and now get to the point where he's a top 10 Yankee prospect. And don't underestimate that. If you're taking it from some Joe Blow team, you're like, okay, whatever, top 7 prospect from some team. They're taking it from the Yankees.
Yeah.
Okay, I trust the Yankees. I do. I trust the Yankees quite a bit.
Yeah.
They've proven they can find guys.
Yeah, and I kind of come back to this point again with the pitching infrastructure with this guy. You've kind of seen what the Cubs. I mean, there are proven results of the kind of overhaul, or just the way the pitching infrastructure has kind of grown. You look at Scott Effross, prime example. They had him back, I think it was spring 2019, turned him into a side armor, and he's had this great run year that obviously the World Series favorites wanted him to be in their bullpen. You look at Brandon Hughes, I think it was around the same time, converted from an outfielder to a pitcher, and he obviously 2020 missed that season, but spent 2021 being a pitcher, like learning to be a pitcher, and then he comes up this year and he's had success. Those are proven examples. You need more, but I think those are like examples where you're like, okay, like maybe this pitching infrastructure is doing something right. And as much as like the last decade had been, the narrative was just the Cubs can't churn out pitchers. Maybe there's a couple examples that you're like, okay, there's something going on here, and maybe this is another guy that they could throw down there and see what they can do, see what they can tweak, see what they can change, see how they can make him the best version of himself.
I think another thing too is, we're going to have to wait till after the deadline, but it's going to be interesting to see what arms from Iowa that they call up to come out of the bullpen. Like, we already seen, is it pronounced Eric Ullman?
Ullman, yeah.
Ullman,
It's
Eric
not
Ullman.
Is it Eric?
It's
okay,
Ullman.
like,
Eric Ullman.
And I know he's only had a few appearances, but I mean,
We call him you, dog.
He looked electric the other night. Like the Cubs have not been known for just it's becoming a little bit of not a full-on, like, head steam assembly line, but, like, it's starting to just shell out these bullpen guys. Like I said, like Luke pointed out, that's the one thing that I've definitely been right about the Cubs on this podcast history, and I guess Nico Horner. But, like, I don't know if Ullman's going to be a guy, but I do know that either way, you do know in free agency they'll probably still pick up some dudes like that are going to be like cost controlled, not going to be anything insane, to go with whoever they call up and give a chance, right? So I'm truly not worried about the bullpen. I know a lot of people were high on Scott Effross. I mean, I thought this guy was going to be the closer in the second half of the season.
Right.
But
we all did.
Again, though, 28 years old, and the Cubs really helped him get to this point. Who's to say they can't just continue to do that? Like, if to be able to move a guy like that at the highest peak of what we've seen from him and get a starting pitcher back who is one of the top prospects pitching wise in the other team's organization, that's something to be like, okay, that's exciting. There's more moves to be made, no doubt. But to me, like, I think you really hit the target in terms of just really maximizing a value for someone.
Here's the last thing I'll say, and maybe this will help, maybe it won't, whatever. This is from Jim Callis, tweeted out, really good get about Wesneski. Really good get for the Cubs. Nearly big league ready start in Wesneski by selling high on Effross. If Jim Callis likes it, I trust it. Jim Callis is like the expert in the minor leagues, which I am not. So if Jim Callis says something, I listen. So if you need something to kind of make you okay with this trade, that's one thing.
I'll give you another guy, the pitch doctor. Our Brendan Miller says, great changeup, great slider. Love that he has two secondary pitches that move the opposite direction. And go to Brendan's Twitter account, or I've retweeted some of them, like there's video of this kid's slider, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like if he can control that, that's going to play at the major league level. And don't forget that while I wish Scott Effross well and hope he has a great major league career, again, if he had done that when he was 24, 25, 26, and 27, now you'd be like, wait, we can't give away this guy that's has this proven track record of a long time and is still under 30. Instead, it's a guy who's had one season who's been very good. He's very impressive. You looked at the future, but if you would have told me back in March or February, hey, we're trading Scott Effross and the Yankees are going to give us a top 10 prospect, their number 2 pitching prospect, boom, deal done. I would have sent him so fast, you wouldn't even been able to blink. It would have happened that quickly. You're only a few months later. And some outings, like, okay, just remember, like, I liked what I saw from Scott Effross. I did. I didn't think they were going to trade him. And maybe this does, and I'm not even sure about this, but maybe it does show you that they are willing to go longer with this rebuild. But I don't even say that because this guy could be at the major league level tomorrow if they really want him to.
Yep.
But it does maybe show you that they are willing to listen to offers, as they should, for almost anybody on the roster if the return is right.
We also got this from a friend of the program, Brian Smith. He tweeted out about a couple hours ago, one start. So I guess he's reviewing some Wesneski starts. One start in the Wesneski tape, and one thing is clear: Cubs fans are going to be very amused by his mound demeanor. It's intense, it's frenetic, and it's unique. His competitiveness bleeds through. I saw Brendan tweet out something about how it like reminded him of Max Scherzer. And I think Brian was like kind of messing with him, saying that he's gonna write that he's gonna write in his post that Brendan thinks Wesneski is Max Scherzer 2.0, which makes me laugh. I love Max Scherzer, but that's obviously the kind of fire you want to see from someone. I haven't reviewed the taste myself, but that's the kind of fire you want to see from a pitcher. I mean, if your guy's going out there and is competing like a Max Scherzer type player, you can't.
Yeah,
can't hate
and
that.
Michael's saying, who's always Captain Negative, and I appreciate that sometimes, then why didn't the Yankees keep him if he's so great? Because they're trying to win now.
Yep.
They want a reliever for that bullpen now because they know one of the keys in the postseason will be bullpen strength. And there aren't that many guys out there. By the way, it looks like the Cubs are going to trade 4 relievers now. Effross, Martin, Givens, Robertson.
Yep.
Wow.
It's going to be a lot of I'm sensing some debuts or some call-ups in the second half.
But again, that's like, it was a piecemeal bullpen when they went into the season. It wasn't like they went out and signed the top 4 relievers. They're trading 4 relievers that had mild value at best, and they're trying to build the farm system because this season is shot. It doesn't mean they can't go out and sign Josh Hader in the offseason, by the way. And we'll get to that move in just a bit. But, like, they can still go spend the money, and that would make this even smarter.
Yeah. Also about the Yankees thing, Mike Dubbs said, Michael King went down for them, and they need a bullpen arm. I think we talked about that last week when we did our trade deadline draft. Like, I think we all had at least one of those guys. Well, like one of the Givens, Martin, or Robertson going to New York because of the Michael King thing. So I guess we were kind of right on that. It just wasn't the reliever we were expecting. That's for sure.
Is there somebody that we're missing? Like, we didn't mention Effross in that predictions thing. And I don't remember what we said for Martin, but, like, we didn't mention Effross. So is there another guy on the roster that we will be surprised by? Because I don't know anybody out there that was like, yep, they're trading Effross.
No, I didn't see that
because he was
at all.
under 30. I think most people thought no.
Yeah,
because he was under 30 and had been good and had a lot of club control. I think that's why he just wasn't.
But they're getting club control back and a starter.
Yeah.
Here's a great question from Dave earlier. He goes, do you think the Cubs asked for Wesneski for Robertson and then New York said no and we'll give you him for Effross, or were they trying to give away Scott? Give away is a weird term, but I think I get the gist of the comment here. What do you think? I don't know.
I think it's more about what you said about the injury that the Yankees sustained.
Yeah, and
they needed a relief pitcher.
Again, I'll say that I don't feel like my gut feeling is that the Cubs weren't shopping Effross.
Right.
Maybe this could have been the scenario, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good question to ask Jed Hoyer when the time comes.
Yeah. I mean, that is
how that kind of came about.
It is interesting, and I wonder, does this eliminate the Yankees from talk from other guys? Like. They also went out and traded for Benintendi, and I thought to myself, well, what if they would have combined Happ with Effross? What would the return have been? If you got the number 7 prospect in their organization for Effross, what if you'd sent Happ and Effross? Or were those deals, or was a deal like that taken apart by Benintendi? Like the Yankees go, no, let's do it 2 separate moves. I would love to know how all of it unfolds and what other deals were. On paper, this looks like a smart move for the Cubs. Maybe one that caught us by surprise. Maybe one that doesn't make them as good for these last 2 months of the season. But again, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
And I don't know who else will be on there. Now, what about the Chris Martin deal? So we haven't had a chance to even talk about that. They get back Zach McKinstry from the Dodgers, who I'm certainly not as high on him, even though he's a positional player, as I am the return they just got for Effross, actually. He seems to me like a left-handed David Bodie. And the first thing I thought of when they got him was he does a lot of things that David Bodie does, but he's left-handed. Are the Cubs getting ready to include Bodie in a deal? Or are they getting ready to include McKinstry in a deal?
Yeah.
Like, just because a guy's been traded for doesn't mean you can't ship him right back out with somebody else.
Well, we had Bodie on our trade. Him and Simmons were combined in our trade deadline draft. As far as you said, left-handed David Bodie, he is a guy that can play a bunch of positions around the field.
Corner outfield, right?
I think he plays both corner outfield as well as like shortstop, second base, third base.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know Ross was telling reporters yesterday, I think, just kind of, or maybe it was Saturday, just kind of that he's another versatile piece. They can move around, plug in all over the place. And again, we keep talking about positionless baseball, but that's just kind of where we're at right now, where they got a lot of guys that could play all over the field. So, and again, we go back to McKinstry. He didn't really get much of a shot with the Dodgers because the Dodgers are in win now mode, because the Dodgers have all these great position players. They're just kind of blocking him. On the Cubs, obviously this year the Cubs aren't winning a World Series. He might get a little bit more run, especially as a left-handed hitter, a little bit more run and chances to kind of show what he can do. And I think he batted yesterday. I was strikeout maybe, something like that.
He struck out in his first at-bat,
yeah, so that's, whatever.
Well, that was kind of the thing that Brennan talked about. Brennan and Corey talked about when they talked about McKinstry, is that at the major league level, the strikeout rate's high, but he's had a lot of success at AAA. I'm not insanely excited about the move. I think for a guy like Chris Martin, I thought they got really good value.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is that he didn't get the opportunity to get consistent at bats with the Dodgers, so you enter him with the Cubs. My thing is like the Cubs are stacked in the infield and they're stacked in the outfield in terms of just having guys.
Right.
Like, I don't know how he's going to get any more at bats
Well, he's a
with
lefty.
the Cubs.
He's a lefty.
That is true.
That's
That
the
is true.
thing.
We
So
don't
they
see a
don't
lot
have
of
they don't have many. And if you consider Rafael Ortega a trade chip, that's another
That's
one
fair.
that's going to be off the board.
That's
Who knows
fair.
when Jason Hayward's coming back? Like that's
Don't say that.
That's
Don't
a
say that.
that's a left-handed bat that the Cubs don't have at their disposal right now.
It's a good.
there's
It's
a-
a good thing they don't have it.
There's a difference between not being able to crack the Dodgers lineup and not being able to crack the Cubs lineup at this point. Like we have a slew of guys that we've talked about all the way back to Frazier, where we're like, why isn't this guy playing? Why I want to see him more? I want to see him more. Those guys are having trouble cracking a bad, probably 100-loss Cubs lineup.
Yeah.
What about a guy who's having trouble cracking a Dodgers lineup? I'll take the chances with the Dodgers guy. It's not like you gave away everything for him. I think you're just slowly increasing the talent level in the organization. This isn't a jump from F to A. This is a jump from C to B or D to C. Like you're just trying to slowly increase what you have in the organization. And this, at the very least, does that. Joey says if McKinstry can be Tommy La Stella with more positional versatility, let's
yes.
go. Well,
Jesse
yeah.
Rogers would love that.
Yeah.
Jesse Rogers would fawn over him.
He would drive him to the ballpark if he could.
Right.
3 a.m. McKinstry is what we're talking about now.
Jack wins the comment section. The fake tweet from John Heyman today, or the tweet mishandled, the $100 million starter Musgrove.
He's
Nice,
staying
Jack.
home. Oh, my goodness.
Keith Law has the Athletics top 60 prospects. We will get to that in a second. But, Cody, first, I do want to hear what kind of wheelings and dealings you're making with the points bet right now.
Oh boy, I took the weekend off. I needed a break. We're getting back on the horse tonight somehow, some way. So yeah, tune in CHGO bets daily at 4:30, I believe. So it should be fun. Anyway, every show we're talking about points bets. My favorite app. I roll over, look at the lines. Not this weekend, but I did last week and all the weeks before because I love points bet. I love points bet because I love to gamble. I love points bet because it's the best way to support CHGO.
Yeah, but you probably didn't. You probably did roll over and look. You just like stopped yourself from betting, right? You just kind of glanced at the lines a little bit.
So, sometimes you like a little itch.
Yeah,
Or you have a little itch. You got to scratch it a little
Just
bit.
look at. You don't have to bet, but you just kind of look at it.
Nobody likes a little itch.
Yeah.
That's a mosquito bite.
Well, sometimes you just gotta scratch it a little bit. So, anyway, when you use code CHGO when you sign up at PointsBet, you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it, guys. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. Ryan just put out his Monday morning thoughts today.
I did.
Put out an article about why the Cubs should keep Willson Contreras.
I also did.
I didn't just read it and then close it. I read it and was like, bring you closer to my heart now, please.
You're welcome.
And so a lot of good stuff like that. You get a free shirt of your choice. You get to choose the shirt. You can get this Bears shirt that Ryan's wearing right now. You can get
I do like
the
that
Cubs
one.
shirt that I'm not wearing right now.
We're obvious. He's cornered by obvious shirts.
Yeah,
There's room for everybody.
I'm a big supporter of obvious shirts.
It's
so
obvious. It's Joe's birthday week.
It is.
Like
yeah.
it's Joe's birthday week. You gotta support him.
So you get those 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. You get the free membership, and then you can get a T-shirt. All for $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet. If you have any questions, you can email pointsbet@allchgo.com. We'll help you out. You're home for live in-play betting. Just got even better. See an edge in the game. You are watching. Is your favorite team primed for a comeback? If you live bet the Cubs last night, I'm sorry that you were that dumb to do that. Don't just watch the game. Bet along with it live. More live betting, more live markets, and faster live cash outs. Follow along with your bets the moment they hit and stay in the live action all game long. Download the PointsBet app right now and use promo code CHGO. So what are you waiting for? It's time to elevate your live betting game. Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services.
Rachel says she's got her CHGO Cubs T-shirt on right now. Super comfy.
Hell yeah. All the way in
Thank
UK.
you very much.
Nice.
I saw the Hey Chicago, What Do You Say T-shirt made its way all the way to
San Francisco
this weekend on Twitter.
Shout out. I think her name was Ashley.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Also, want to tell you about OWYN, which stands for Only What You Need. OWYN is a 100% plant-based protein shake that gives you nutrition while it works as hard as you do. And the products are all free of artificial ingredients, allergen-friendly, no gluten, no dairy, easily digestible. I first heard about OWYN when I heard that Bears quarterback Justin Fields lives this plant-based diet, and that's what he follows. So I thought, well, I better start doing that too, and with a few donuts and stuff mixed in. Owen and CHGO have partnered up to give you an awesome offer. You can get 20% off your first purchase at liveowen.com. That's LIVEOWYN.com with the code CHGO20. Join me and Justin Fields. Try Owen, only what you need. Robbie on the chat says, Ricketts would rather bulldoze my favorite McDonald's and build a hotel over it than pay a player any substantial money.
That's your favorite McDonald's?
You're just being ridiculous now, because that was a filthy McDonald's with greasy floors, trash all over the place, and now you have a nicer McDonald's. Plus, you have Smoke Daddy and all these other places over the top of it. Like, it's better.
You know what? Okay,
I do like the Catino at Taco Bell, too, even though
it's all better than the dirty little McDonald's.
It was a legendary Taco Bell and a legendary McDonald's.
Yeah, I don't have a.
I ain't against them.
I don't have a favorite McDonald's, but I do have a least favorite McDonald's. You guys ever been to Gene and Jude's?
Yeah.
The McDonald's right behind it. And it's like I don't put the ketchup on my hot dogs. That's not me. But like, because Gene and Jude's, you can't get ketchup there to put on your hot dogs. So if you're someone that likes ketchup on your hot dogs, you can't do it there. So people would go around the McDonald's and ask for ketchup packets. And then eventually they caught on, and now they charge people for ketchup packets. Like, if you want a ketchup packet from that McDonald's,
inflation, baby, that's what happens.
For it. And I'm like, that is brutal, because Gene and Jude's doesn't give you ketchup if you want it. Now you can't even go to McDonald's. You have to pay at McDonald's to buy a couple of little tiny ketchup packets that probably cost them like 1 cent to make.
Next thing you're going to tell me is they're going to charge for bags at the Jewel. Oh, no, they already do that, too. You charge for
7 cents.
7 cents.
That's my least favorite
Bag
McDonald's.
You get the hell out of here, Chicago.
Every other McDonald's is my most favorite McDonald's.
That's just ridiculous.
I'm enjoying the chat, everyone yelling at each other. It's just very Cubs fandom-like. Scott, I'm upset that you had to bring up Juan Soto and the St. Louis Cardinals.
We'll get to that.
You deserve someone should like flick you or something. Maybe step on a Lego. But yeah. Anyway.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah, Michael, I can't. I did. Last week when we talked about Juan Soto and the Cardinals, I took one of the clips from that and I put it up on my TikTok. And I haven't looked at the comments, but I keep getting notifications. I'm just assuming they're all Cardinals fans telling me I'm a moron or something like that. Can't wait to look at them, see how triggered they are by me. But whatever.
I saw, I think it was Passing saying that they're very in one of the hottest teams, Cardinals, going after him, and we'll get to that in just a second. But you also caught this today, Cody, that Keith Law has his top 60 prospects out now, kind of an updated list. Cubs have 3 in the top 60 now. So, again, at this time last year, maybe only Brennan Davis would have been on that list. I don't know where he was exactly a year ago, but PCA, number 28. And by the way, the Mets have said, they don't want to make another PCA type deal for Willson Contreras. They don't want to make that mistake twice. They're looking at it as a mistake already. The buy his deal last year. Brendan Davis is number 35, despite the fact that he's really hardly played this season and had back surgery. And Kevin Alcantara is up to number 60. So you got 3 guys. Again, it's about building those quality players, and there'll be more coming into that pipeline by this time next season as Brendan Davis and maybe PCA and some of those guys start to make their way to the major leagues. All right, so there weren't just deals with the Cubs. Maybe the biggest, easily the biggest deal today was within the division, and that was the Brewers trading Josh Hader. Didn't see that coming. I know that he's going to be a free agent, but here's a first-place team with a starting rotation that could make you interesting in the postseason, a lineup that's a little, you're not sure, and they go and trade their stud 4-time All-Star closer to the Padres, and my first reaction was, are they giving up? Are the Brewers giving up? And then when I went and looked at the actual return, I'm impressed with what the Brewers are doing. They're not giving up, and they're restocking the farm system.
Well, it goes into a lot of what we've talked about in terms of how the Cubs can create sustained success for themselves, right? Like, in one hand, it's kind of funny that they traded Hader because it's the Brewers and they're small market. But let's be real, they're very good at developing pitching. Mm-hmm. They have shown that. Yes. There is no doubt about that. And
also, there may not be a better system in the majors at developing pitching than the Brewers.
Right. And they got Devin Williams. So it's like they could afford to move a guy like Josh Hader. And then to get the return they got back, it is good. But for me, it is a little funny just because, like, knowing how the Brewers operate in terms of how they don't pay guys except for Christian Yelich and Ryan Braun throughout our lives, or me and Ryan's life at least. It's very interesting because, like, to me, of course, the Brewers should be going all in with the type of team that they have. In my opinion, they should be going all in, try to get that big bat because Yelich he's still performing like a very average baseball player. Like, they got the pitching, but they don't have the offense. There's still a lot of hours. There's still a lot of hours left, right? I know Ian Happ's been linked to the Brewers, and that just makes me very, very broken and sad. But again, like, I will be interested to see how they go and get that offense, because to me, like, they're at least one bat away from maybe convincing me that they can be a World Series favorite. They've always had the pitching. Again, they've always had it, but the fact that they moved Hader when they should be going all in is a little funny to me. But again, having Devin Williams helps take away that blow. And again, the return they got back to go into their system, it's a really good move for them. In the short term, I think it hurts them a little bit, but in the long term, it works out great. But again, when you're a team like the Brewers who are first in this division right now, to me it just tells me again why the Cubs should be competing in this division every year. Every year they should be competing in this division. When you got one team who's leading the division, selling the best closer in the game.
Can you imagine if the Cubs did that? What the reaction would be?
Oh, for sure.
On this chat and on Twitter, what it would be like if the Cubs traded the best reliever in baseball. People were mad when they traded Kimbrel.
People were mad when they traded Scott Effross this morning.
Yes.
Again.
Guy that's done it for half a season.
That's all I put it into perspective. The Cubs traded Scott Effross, but the Brewers just traded Josh Hader.
Right. I just don't. Again, I think in the long term it works out well for them, but in the short term, it's like you just moved your best arm out of the pen. No, if you have a lead in the playoffs and you go into you have a lead after the seventh inning, having Williams and Hader, like, listen, moving Williams to the ninth inning is great, but like you got decent arms after that, but like, we're talking about Josh Hader.
It is a tick down, but Hader leads the majors with 29 saves.
And they got Taylor Rogers in the return, right?
So they get Taylor Rogers, who's got 28 saves. So
right. Again, though, I don't know.
I understand he's not Hader. He's a tick down. They haven't made themselves quite as good, but maybe they think to themselves, like you said, maybe let's make the bigger move on offense. And if Soto is going to go to the Cardinals, sorry, Cody, I don't even want to say that out loud, but if it happens, maybe that talks the Brewers into doing something stupid, which I would be good with.
Yeah.
Like,
again,
go ahead and to try and match what the Cardinals are doing so you don't give up first place, because now the Cards got Soto. Yeah. Maybe the Brewers do something stupid. I would love to see those two teams go back and forth with dumb moves. I don't think this is necessarily a dumb move. I kind of admire it.
No, I like it. And like Jack R. says, winning and building at the same time. And you said that too when we were sitting over at the table talking about it. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad move. It's just it sums up the Brewers organization. Like, they don't pay guys. And do you want to give top dollar to a closer? Probably not in the long run, especially when you do got a guy like Devin Williams and the way that you churn out talent. But in a year where they're leading this division, you just think they would want to keep him and then add a bat and, like, I don't know, go all in like good teams do. Like, again, it mainly just brings me back to thinking why the Cubs should be competing in this division every year. That's basically the only thing that brings me back to. So, Again, it's not the worst move in the world, but it is a good move for the long term, for sure.
It's a good move for the long term. I will say there aren't many pitchers that I think like any baseball person would like trust more than Josh Hader in a playoff scenario, ninth inning. Like, Josh Hader has kind of proven himself in that. But you guys mentioned Devin Williams is probably, he's arguably going to be the reliever of the year this year. Like, he's been incredible. Taylor Rogers, a solid piece. Danielson Lamet, he's had a rough year, but he's still got a slider that's, I think it's like a 50% whiff rate. Like, his slider is dirty, and if he can work with that pitching staff and kind of rediscover something, like that's a piece that could help that bullpen too. Because he had a good 2020. He was good in 2020. 2021 was a down year. This year's been bad. But that slider is still, again, that's still a pitch that is 50% of the time unhittable.
Yeah.
So
30 straight starts now or 30 straight appearances for Williams without allowing a run for the Brewers. I believe it's 30
something
or
like
30.
that.
Yeah, that's not
I mean,
bad.
He's
I
been
mean, he's-
incredible.
That's okay
nuts.
as your closer. That's
Yeah,
all right.
yeah,
And
it's
I will
crazy.
say this: maybe Effross isn't the comparison we should be making, but this is a reason Cubs fans they can relate to a little bit. Imagine the Cubs in first place thinking they can't sign a guy that's been one of their core players, and they trade him. Okay, Willson Contreras. You're angry about Willson Contreras. What if they were trading Willson Contreras while in first place?
Yeah.
That's basically. Hayter's been as valuable to the Brewers as Willson Contreras has been to the Cubs.
Absolutely.
At his position, it's almost like apples to apples.
Right.
They're actually making that move. The difference is the Brewers have somebody to put in that position, whereas the Cubs are like,
Right.
well, who's going to be our catcher moving forward?
Yeah.
There is no
And
answer
that's,
there.
And that's the big point about how the Cubs can eventually get to a point where they have sustained success if they just start shelling out bullpen arms like this and have a bullpen similar to the Brewers one day. I don't know if they're going to be able to find themselves a Josh Hader or a Devin Williams, but like that's like it sucks to say, but the way that they have built their farm system to go with their major league team is very impressive. And for a team like them who they don't pay guys. They paid Christian Yelich and that's it. Like it is impressive to see how they are able to continue to build their team while also winning. You know, they already gave Aaron Ashby an extension.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting how they decide to keep Burns or Woodruff or whatever, but like again, with the way that they're developing pitching, I wouldn't, if I'm a Brewers fan, I wouldn't even be that worried about it. So
Both of those guys are arbitration eligible for next year and the year after, both
Right.
Woodruff and Burns.
So, like, yeah, they still have some time on that. But,
Yeah.
again, will they give out a big mega contract to those two guys? I won't bet on it. I won't. So,
We'll see.
we'll see. But, yeah, I mean, spin zone to it all. I'm just happy to see Josh Hader not in the NL Central anymore. Like, get him out of here, bro.
And get rid of Castillo from the Reds, too. By the way, that was a haul.
That was a
The
haul.
Reds got trading him to the Mariners. And that just pointed out to me, now that I saw the Effross deal, the first thing that went in my head, Cody, you know what it was? They got that for Castillo. What would the Cubs get for Marcus Stroman? I'm just saying. All you did was pay money to him. It's not like you have some massive investment in, like, you developed Marcus Stroman. If the haul was as good as the Reds got, or close to what the Reds got for
Yeah.
Castillo, would you consider it if another team came? Teams are getting desperate now.
Yeah.
We've seen some big moves coming here now.
I love what the Mariners did. I know a lot of people think that the Mariners got fleeced here because they gave up 2 or 3 top prospects in their organization. Julio Rodriguez is is a
Yeah.
rookie, man, and that guy's a
Fine.
stud.
Yeah.
They got other guys. They signed Robbie Ray. Like last year, people were criticizing them for trading off or whoever they did when they're in the middle of a race, and we all remember what their GM or president of baseball operations said to the Rotary Club or whatever, that Zoom call. Like a lot of bad there. Like I'm genuinely happy for their fan base to see
Yeah.
that they're going all in and trying to win.
Well, shit, man, they have the longest postseason drought in major
They
American
deserve to have a
sports.
winner.
Like,
Right.
I mean, because it was like
And if-
three of those guys
right.
were like top 5 prospects per pipeline, something like that. And yeah, that sucks to see. But they're trying to win,
Right.
Like they're trying to win. They don't do that often. Like it's been
Right.
a long time since they were in the playoffs.
The way that they'll be able to get past those blows is if they can continue to develop prospects. That's the way that they'll have to do it. They might have to make a trade, something like that. Maybe sending not necessarily a big piece, but a guy like a Scott Effross type trade, maybe in the offseason or next year, something to maybe supplement back in a way. But yeah, I mean, again, and a lot of people just value prospects so high, and yes, the league does too now, because it doesn't look like any team is willing to move any major prospect unless it's for Juan Soto, and even still, it might not happen. So.
But you just got a top 7 prospect in the Yankees, not like
For a guy who's
Major League Baseball in the Yankees
with 5 years of
organization.
control, though.
Imagine if the Cubs traded their top 2 pitching prospect right now for a middle reliever, you'd be furious.
Oh, for sure,
You'd
for
be
sure,
furious.
for sure. It also depends on how good the team is, and,
Yes,
and if they're
100%.
all in. Like the
Changes
Yankees
your
are all
perspective.
in, man. And that's just how that franchise works. I know they haven't won a World Series in a decade, but still, like that. Sometimes you just gotta go all in. That is how the Cubs won in 16. That's why, like, yeah, you definitely value your prospects, and you know how you get past moving on from those types of prospects. You keep building within the organization, having good drafts. If you got to make a trade, kind of like how the Dodgers did with, I think it was the Rays today or something, where they got like a rookie ball outfielder or something like that. You do things like that, and that is how you keep sustained success, and you just keep just building it up. Like you got, like, again, that's the good thing for the Brewers in terms of that Hader trade. So yeah, with this Mariners trade, yeah, it doesn't seem like a good trade, but to me, like, you want to see teams that are winning. You want to see them try. Like, it's almost like some teams are just not willing to try hard enough to win, and that's why the teams like the Dodgers are perennial World Series favorites every year, because they're willing to do whatever it takes, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Brewers thing, don't get me wrong, it knocks them down. I don't think they're winning the World Series anyway, and maybe they're able to look at themselves and say, we're probably not going to, but this doesn't hurt our... If we're going to do it, we're going to need some luck, and this doesn't hurt our chances that much, but it also helps us for the future moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's something. It's like with this move, they could certainly still make the playoffs. And once you get to the playoffs, anything can kind of happen. But
and stay competitive.
And they have guys that will be competitive moving forward. Like that's... I think to me that seems like the thinking behind this.
If the Cubs were developing players 3-4 years ago at a rate that would have been okay, this is the type of move that would have been okay to make, that wouldn't have led to where we're at now, where the cupboard was bare and you're like, well, going to tear it down, or we're going to spend $1 billion in the offseason, and it's not going to be spend $1 billion in the offseason, so we're tearing it down. They didn't develop enough guys that were movable, so this is what has happened.
Yeah.
So now they're stockpiling the cupboards as much as they can. I'm just saying, keep your eyes on Marcus Stroman. I'm not saying he's getting traded. Since the day they signed him, I don't think it's impossible that that's what they will do.
I know he's had a few good starts, but
he has been better.
I don't know if it's enough for a team that's going to send back a return even close to what they got for Castillo.
Yeah. It's probably less than 50-50, but I'm just saying there's a shot.
I want to talk about this comment from Nick G. Kevin, I was just thinking about this. We have great minds think alike, my man.
We on it today.
Yeah, there we go. Nick G asked, do you think the Effross trade hurts Robertson's market? David Robertson, obviously.
I mean, his market wasn't necessarily super high anyway, since he's a rental. Like, I think it's different from Effross, because he's 5 years of control, man. Like, that's a lot. The Yankees are going to have that guy for the next 4 seasons after this one.
I think.
But he's not nearly as proven as David Robertson.
I don't think it hurts his market. I think, again, we talk
that's
about
what I'm
it
saying.
all the
I don't think it
time.
hurts.
It's like teams are going to need relievers down the stretch, like especially good, proven relievers, good track record guys that know how to pitch in big situations. David Robertson has obviously had a good season this year. Teams want that. Teams value that. And regardless of how many relievers are getting traded, you really can't have too much proven relief talent. So I don't think this hurts David Robertson's trade market at all. I think maybe the Yankees don't come calling anymore. Right. But there's still going to be teams out there that are looking for a guy on a rental, obviously, but cheap, is good, has been good, knows what it's like to pitch in big markets, so the bright lights won't phase him. I think he could be. There's going to be teams that are contending, that are hoping to make the playoffs, that see him as a guy that they can throw into that bullpen back end, maybe not closer, but back end, and just pitch well for them down the stretch.
I appreciate, as difficult as it may be, and as frustrating as it may be, and confusing as it may be to a lot of people, that the Cubs are staying on their path. I don't want to see it wishy-washy. If you're going to do it, do it. It's going to hurt. It's not fair. It's not right. But if that's the path you're saying, stick with it. So Effross is a surprising move, but it's not necessarily the wrong move at this point. If If they came to CHGO and said, you know what, we heard this Del Mendo guy's a young analytics guy with a high upside. He's got swag. He's got a lot of Jordan Lows. We might have to pull the trigger on that move. I don't know what the Cubs are taking offers on, but everybody wants an analytics guy now.
Yeah,
Cody
Delmetrics.
Everybody wants it. Delmetrics.
Yeah, there you go. Cody Delmetrics.
I know how to read Baseball Savant. Thank you.
Hey, if you enjoy CHGO, one way to continue to help us grow is to, first of all, like us. 28 likes or whatever's going on. Come on now.
We got 32 now.
32.
We need more.
Download the
watching.
PointsBet app
29.
and use the code CHGO when you sign up. Not only do you get those 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you get the free CHGO membership. Unlocks all of Ryan's web content. He's going to St. Louis for the trade deadline. You're going to want to be a member, and you also get that free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. We got a lot of cool swag out there. Sick drip. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out in case you missed it. Online sign-up available in Illinois. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now. Register your account, start to finish, all from your phone. You're signing up with the fastest sports book, and it's easier than ever. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
I hope Michael Culata has liked our video. We let him come in
Yeah,
here.
Michael. The negativity deserves at least a like.
Just spew his hate every day. We even acknowledge him a few times.
He
Like,
makes me laugh.
yeah, as negative as it is, like I just let him go off like the king he is. He better be at least someone who's liking the video. Because if he's not, then I'm
Cardinals
never
have
acknowledging him
Soto.
again.
We have Rivas. I've seen that quote, I think, every show I've produced for you guys the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. By the way, we do appreciate that 3:30 in the afternoon, 131 people are watching this live, not just
awesome. Shout out
downloading the podcast and listening to it, which is
Right.
also great.
you.
But
Shout out all you. Love
Dubs
it.
is right. 131 watching should have 131 likes. That's what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
That's what we're looking for. And we should point out that if Contreras or Hap gets traded tonight, we'll jump right back on and do an emergency podcast.
Absolutely.
So when that happens, if it happens, no. When it happens, there'll be another podcast just for that.
I'm going if. I'm still sticking if. I made my
I
prediction.
know. Ryan made the prediction.
Prediction.
He's the one guy in the world that still believes Contreras. Boy, you'll get a lot of props if it doesn't happen.
Oh,
Listen,
man. I will run with that for like weeks if he doesn't get traded. I'll be like, I had it first. I said it first.
Listen, like, obviously the sole reason that neither him or Hap have not been moved is because Juan Soto is like, I think once Juan Soto is moved, or the Nationals say they're not going to move him, then they will then either be moved or not be moved. I don't know though, man. I'm still so just like frustrated with how this organization has treated this guy. What we had to watch at the end of last night's game was just brutal, man. Like, we don't deserve that as a fan base to have to sit and watch like guys giving Contreras hugs in the dugout and having him to ask or answer these same questions every single day. Like, I get it. It's trade season. It's a business, blah, blah, blah. But it's just so like, at this point, like, and Corey and Brennan talked about it on their show that you could have listened to this morning, still can after this show.
Should just go back to back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just engage as much Cubs content as you can.
CHGO Cubs content,
Yes,
that is.
yeah. Like, there's just no catcher out there on the market that really is going to put you in a better situation than Willson Contreras. I know Miguel Maya's in Double-A, and you still got a lot of questions there. Like, to me, it's just like that's the thing. If you had Luis Capusano like the Padres have, or just some like or Alvarez like the Mets have, like, okay, like, I get it, but like the Cubs just don't have anyone like that you can throw in at catcher and catch half your games next year. And like, to me, it's just like, what? Why not even have the conversation, man? That's what I'm always gonna wonder, unless they completely shock me with what they do at that position. I no one can sit here and tell me that Yan Gomes is an everyday catcher. P.J. Higgins has been nice. Like, he's been a very nice surprise. He's turned himself into a guy that I'm like, oh, he should be on this roster next
And Amaya,
year.
it might be a three-headed monster next year.
I get that. I just like, Are all three of those guys together, is that better than what you can get out of Willson Contreras for the next 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this yesterday, my reasons the Cubs shouldn't trade Willson piece. The argument is true that teams that have won recently, the only one that has won with a catcher giving top-tier production, a catcher giving top-tier offensive production at the position is the Dodgers in 2020 with Will Smith. The other ones, obviously it was since the Cubs won especially, Astros in 17, Red Sox in 18, Nationals in 19, and then the hell one last year, the Braves in 21. They didn't have the kind of offensive production that Willson brings. But I think on the flip side of it, you're like, well, there just really aren't that many guys, that many catchers that can hit like Willson does, and maybe that's why teams don't often win with offensive producers,
Right.
At catcher, because there just aren't that many in the league, and you see it. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with it. I'm not changing my mind until it happens.
I respect it.
Until 5 p.m. Until 5 p.m. comes tomorrow, and then we'll know for sure. But
Yeah.
Got another big trade here. According to Robert Murray, Frankie Montas traded to the Yankees now. So
And the Yankees are
they're
going all
crazy.
in.
Yep.
But I mean, they're in position to do it. Always.
they are all in.
All in.
They're going after it. It's been a long time since. When's the last time the Yankees won a World Series?
09.
09?
That's
Yeah.
a
I
was
long
in high
time
school.
for the Yankees not to
Yeah.
win a World Series.
Yeah. I'm 31. I was in high school. I was a senior in high school when they last won.
Well, Frankie Montas has been one of those guys thrown around in trade rumors since like the offseason. Like he's been all over the trade rumors since, literally the whole season. So I don't know.
What did they give up? What did they give up?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason they didn't do the Hap /
I haven't seen
Effross deal. The Effross deal was just forgotten completely in New York. Nobody's even going to. Scott Effross went from the back page of the Daily News to
Looks like
gone.
Looks like the Astros are getting Trey Mancini too, according to Dan Connolly.
And as far as
Chandler Rome down at the Houston Chronicle, I just saw him tweet, source, the Astros have acquired Trey Mancini from the Baltimore Orioles. There you go. I trust Chandler.
I get it. The Orioles got a really bright future, especially after having that number one pick. But man, that's a prime example of what I'm talking about with why I support what the Mariners did. Like, I understand the Orioles they might get a wild card spot, but Mancini's also his story is so. It's good to hear. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of teams in baseball just I just don't want to pay anyone, man. I know the Orioles aren't like a giant market or anything.
Apparently, the Yankees got Lou Trevino in that deal from the A's too. It's Trevino and Montas.
they just might realize, listen, the only way we're going to compete with a monster like the Yankees Yankees, Red Sox, all these teams, is to just have absolutely stockpiled young guys all at one time. Yeah. I don't know. I can't explain it. And Mike Dubbs had the point on the chat talking about, well, what if? And it's a big if, the Cubs said to Willson, we're going to trade you, but then we're going to give you the deal. And I've said that for a long time. I don't believe that's even – I think that's a 0.0% chance, because if that had been the case, you wouldn't have all these tiers. Yeah. He'd be happy to go play for the Mets for 2 months and then come back and get the deal.
People always remember that Aroldis Chapman did that with the Yankees.
Yep.
But also remember that John Lester chose the Cubs over the Red Sox after all of his success that he had with Boston.
It'll be about money. And somebody said, well, what if he was asking, I think it was Niren, what if he asked for 8 years, $200 million? Well, then I'd be out.
Yeah.
I don't know. But as far as I know, no deal was even offered to Willson Contreras. That's the crazy part.
As
that's
much
always
as we've
been
told,
the thing.
As much as we've been told that at least this season, and I believe that there was extension talks prior to obviously this season, before lockout, all that kind of stuff. As far as we know, there have been no talks, no deals.
Cap told me none,
extended.
And he is. I will say, Cap is close to Willson Contreras.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's done good stuff for his son.
Yeah,
Brett.
I mean, Willson hasn't changed like that too. Like he said every time, anytime he's been asked, the talks haven't happened. So yeah, I do think it's weird that as much as he says he wants to stay, they haven't even had the talk. They haven't even had a talk there. Okay, we can't come to an agreement. Okay, that's fine. That if that hasn't happened yet, which Cap says it hasn't, as far as we know, from Willson, it hasn't happened. That feels weird to me. That conversation hasn't happened.
Yeah,
it feels weird.
This is also the first time we've seen each other in person since I didn't win the Mega Millions.
Ah.
It was a possibility I wasn't going to be here today.
Pour one out.
And it's never been closer.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite?
1.28 bildo. With after taxes, this person in Des Plaines, $433 million.
And that's if they take the lump sum, right?
That's what they're taking. Yeah, if they take it, they're going to get $433 million.
What was your favorite part of the adrenaline rush of hoping you win?
First of all, you'll never be closer than Des Plaines. Like
Oh my, yeah. When I saw
the two of us, Ryan and I, we border up against it. I know the Speedway. So I do want to end this podcast just with a message to my friend in Des Plaines. I know we haven't been as close as we'd like to be, but you know that we've always been close.
I haven't reached out in a while.
And I haven't reached out in a while, and that's my fault. It's on me. And I know you're under a lot of stress right now. I don't want you to worry about calling me. I just want to point out that we've always been good friends, and that while some of your friends will be coming out of the woodworks now and asking for $100 million, between you and me, it's cool. I'm cool with $300,000 if that's what you want to give me. Don't worry about it. $300,000, $200,000, either one's cool with me. I just want you to know you're my friend forever. Friend in Des Plaines, you know who you are.
You are also my friend.
I'll send you my router number.
The CHGO Cubs podcast, our best friend is the guy in Des Plaines.
Yeah,
That's right.
Don't know his name.
Don't know his name, but he's my best friend.
I want you to know
We've never needed
that
to know each other's name. That's the thing. We never needed to.
You are
We're
more
always
important
like
to
that.
me. Our friendship is more important to me than any of these Cubs moves, just so we know that back and forth.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
And you know what?
Us. It's about us.
Yeah.
All
We'll
these
always
three
be
of us.
friends.
everyone else might be
I can
talking to
share.
you.
I can help share with some of that.
Everyone else might be, hitting you up, but there's only a few
No.
of us that come from the northwest suburbs,
That's right.
and we're all together.
And I
out
won't bug you.
Northwest
You don't
suburbs.
if you don't give me that for a couple years, that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Don't worry about it. I'll be fine.
You want to go on your shopping sprees,
That's
your
right.
vacations. It's up to you, man.
You need somebody to mow your lawn in the meantime. I'll do it.
I'll be here. I'll take care of your dog if you have one. If you have a cat too, I'll take care of that. Don't like cats, but
And we'll keep doing this podcast for you too, because I know you're a loyal CHGO listener, which most people didn't know that the winner in Des Plaines, huge CHGO Cubs fan.
Huge.
Got a lot of the swag and now a lot more of the drip.
so it sounds like if you
A lot more of the drip.
It sounds like if you want to win the lotto, you have to watch CHGO. So I'm taking from
Absolutely.
This.
Absolutely.
So I'm taking from this.
Who makes more, Guy in Des Plaines or Juan Soto?
Wow.
Man or
Stuckey,
woman
I
in
think
Des
you're
Plaines,
friends with
it's
Juan
my
Soto
friend.
too, right?
Well,
I would
My
love
friend
to
in
be
Des
best
Plaines,
friends
that's-
with Juan Soto.
Juan Soto's got to work for it.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a difference.
That's true.
Juan Soto's going to have to work for it for about a decade. My friend living large in Des Plaines. You know what you can buy in Des Plaines for $433 million? Des Plaines. That's what you can buy for it. Des Plaines, all of it. Again, hey, trade deadline deal. If something happens tonight or tomorrow before we get in, we're going to try and break in as soon as possible to talk about the deals as they happen. So far,
We have a long day
Effross, Martin, and a minor
Yep.
leaguer. The big moves we've had one surprising move, one expected move, and so far the big ones are still out there. I'm sort of impressed with the Cubs' return, just based on the first two moves.
I'm just kind of dreading because I know with my luck, I will be in Cody's hometown in central Illinois with no Wi-Fi or barely any connection.
With a bunch of rednecks.
Yeah, and then the trade goes down. I have to pull over to the side of the road, try to hop on. It's gonna look like a webcam in 2008 as I'm on the show with you guys. It's not gonna work out. So if they can just wait till after afternoon-ish time, let me get to St. Louis in one piece.
Yeah.
Just
Safe travels.
Just help. It would help. It would help.
Okay, thanks for dropping by to check out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Again, we'll be here when you need us. And again, shout out to my friend in Des Plaines. Fly the W.